James Clear's website is very popular. Every month, millions of people visit it, and hundreds of thousands sign up for his email newsletter. I can see why now that I've read this book. He's a great writer, and he boils down the essence of forming habits to their most basic parts, their atomic structure, if you will, while showing us how small changes can add up to big results. In our first big idea, we'll talk about the math behind daily gains of 1%. Now, I don't usually say that a book is a must-read, but this one is pretty close. The book is full of big ideas. It's one of those books that is so good that it's hard to sum up in a single video. We'll barely scratch the surface of all the good stuff, but I'm excited to share some of my favorites, so let's get right to it. Why tiny changes lead to remarkable results. It's easy to put too much weight on one defining moment and not put enough weight on making small improvements every day. Too often, we tell ourselves that if we want to be really successful, we need to do a lot of things. Whether we're trying to lose weight, build a business, write a book, win a championship, or reach any other goal, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make a big change that everyone will notice. Improving by 1% isn't very important, and sometimes you might not even notice it, but it can be much more important in the long run. It is amazing how much a small change can change over time. Here's how the math works out. If you can get 1% better every day for a year, you will be 37 times better by the end of the year. On the other hand, if you get 1% worse every day for a year, you'll almost be at zero. What starts out as a small win or a small loss adds up to something bigger. Self-improvement pays off in the long run through habits. In the same way that interest on money adds up over time, the effects of your habits add up over time as well. They don't seem to make much of a difference on any given day, but over months and years, they can have a huge effect. When you look back 2, 5, or even 10 years later, you can see how important good habits were and how expensive bad ones were. That is from Part 1, The Fundamentals, Chapter 1, The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. James starts the book with a story about Brailsford and how he used small changes to make a huge difference in the British cycling team. The moral of that story is that small things do matter. A lot. We talk a lot about optimizing just a little bit more every day, adding and multiplying those tiny gains over a long period of time. Now we know what happens when we improve by just 1% every day for a year. We're 37 times better. But consider this. Make a spreadsheet and run that 1% daily improvement for an additional year. Guess what? You haven't improved 74 times in 2 years. You've improved 1,400 times since then. All of this is to say that small things do matter. A lot. Especially when we add them up over time. Those numbers, of course, quickly become absurd. Yet, that's the point. Ellen Langer, a Harvard professor who specializes in the psychology of possibility, comes to mind. She tells us that our potential is unknowable. Literally. We can't know what we're capable of until we stop putting limits on ourselves. And start with the small things. Consistently. Ralph Waldo Emerson also comes to mind. He has a great line in Self-Reliance about how great people have an aura around them. He claims that it's almost as if a train of angels is following them. The power of character is cumulative, he says. Their health is a result of all the good deeds they did in the past. What is it about the heroes of the Senate and the battlefield that makes them so majestic? The idea that great days and victories have come and gone before. They shed a united light on the advancing actor. A visible guard of angels is present to protect him. P.S. Here's another way James puts it. Consider a plane leaving LAX. New York City is the desired location. But if the nose of the plane is pointed just 3.5 degrees south and the pilots don't correct for it, they'll land in Washington, D.C. rather than NYC. If you are off by 90 inches at the start, you will be off by hundreds of miles at the end. Again, small things are important. A lot. P.S. One very important thing to remember. Compounding is magic. And even though we'll never be perfect, we need to make sure we don't give back the benefits we've gained. The plateau of latent potential. If you find it hard to make a good habit or get rid of a bad one, it doesn't mean you've lost your ability to get better. Most of the time, it's because you haven't yet moved past the plateau of latent potential. If you work hard but still don't get what you want, it's like complaining that an ice cube didn't melt when you heated it from 25 to 31 degrees. Your work didn't go to waste, it's just being kept. All of the action takes place at 32 degrees. People will say you became successful overnight when you finally break through the plateau of latent potential. Mastery requires patience. The San Antonio Spurs are one of the most successful teams in NBA history. In their locker room, there is a quote from social reformer Jacob Riis that says, "When nothing seems to help, I go and watch a stonecutter hammering away at his rock, maybe 100 times, without even a crack showing. Still, it will break in half after the 101st blow, and I know it wasn't the last blow that did it, but all the others." We're still in the first chapter about the surprising power of atomic habits. Small things add up to make big things happen. Got it? The problem is that those little things need time to add up to those big things. Too often, when we start a new diet, fitness program, or whatever, we want our lives to change in X days. And when we don't see results right away, we stop doing the little things that would have helped us get where we want to go. That difference between what we do and what we get? James calls it the plateau of latent potential, and he tells us it's a hallmark of any compounding process. The most powerful outcomes are delayed. What do you think? Have you, like every other person on the planet, ever quit during the plateau of latent potential phase, before we could see the real value you were building? Remember the man who cut stones? And the ice cube that melted? All that work, and we don't see any big changes? Know that the delay is important to the process. Identity. Changing your identity is the North Star of changing your habits. The rest of this book will give you step-by-step instructions on how to build better habits for yourself, your family, your team, your company, or anywhere else you want. But the real question is, are you turning into the kind of person you want to be? Who is the first step, not what or how? You have to figure out who you want to be. If you don't do this, you won't be able to make changes. So, this is where we'll start. You can change what you think and feel about yourself. Who you are is not written in stone. Every moment, you have a choice. Today, you can choose the habits that will help you build the kind of person you want to be. And this brings us to the real point of this book and why habits are so important. Adding life hacks to your day won't help you build better habits. It's not about flossing one tooth every night, taking a cold shower every morning, or wearing the same outfit every day. It's not about getting more money, losing weight, or having less stress. Habits can help you do all of these things, but they're not really about getting something. They are about changing into something. In the end, your habits matter because they shape you into the person you want to be. They are how you come to believe the most important things about yourself. You become what you do most of the time. Welcome to Chapter 2, How Your Habits Make Up Who You Are, and vice versa. This chapter comes right before the 4 laws of habits. But we need to start with who before we can learn what and how. In particular, who do you want to become? That is the most important thing that drives our habits. So, before we move on, who do you want to become? A fit and healthy athlete? A super productive person? A great husband, wife, parent, or child? While you think about that, think about this: the more you repeat a behavior, the more it becomes a part of who you are. Identity comes from the Latin words essentitas, which means to be, and identitum, which means again and again. Your identity is literally what you do over and over again. Wow. Your identity is literally what you do over and over again. That's lovely. And, James tells us, your identity comes from your habits. Whatever your identity is right now, you only believe it because you have proof of it. Therefore, want to change who you are? As often as possible, do what you want them to do. Before we continue, Here in this channel, we provide you with animated summaries of the best books to help you improve your life and achieve your personal goals. If you are interested, consider subscribing and liking the video.